Over a year ago, I hit record on a confidential Zoom meeting with former child actors. You can guess who was there: Disney, Nickelodeon, medical shows, crime shows, soap operas, soda ads. We really get around. Our objective was to surface key themes and the most pressing issues to address in order to systematically dismantle the toddler to train wreck pipeline. This was a place where people could remain anonymous to the public, but still exchange information freely and contribute to what has become Dear Hollywood and the resources that we're creating for young artists and their families. The group was deliberately diverse across generations, race, sexual orientation, gender identity, disability, belief system, career milestone, and beyond, because I knew the majority of actors speaking out, and might I add, getting the spotlight, are white and assigned female at birth. Hey, which by default excludes many dimensions of other young artists' experiences. Now, creating a safe and brave space required a lot of forethought for this bunch. And no, it's not because I was worried about giant egos. First, how was I going to build trust? There's a strong disposition of distrust among performers born from years of being taken advantage of and of information we share being used against us in the media. Beyond, the only time we typically gather in shared spaces is when we're competing for roles at casting offices, or when we're on set with a call sheet that arranges us into a hierarchy, or we're at events where we need to be on for the cameras. That does not scream, "Come as you are, be authentic." Second, where was everyone's mind on the matter these days? Each of us was at very different stages of healing and reflection, as well as different positions of power, or lack thereof, in the industry. We had brand new baby actors, award-winning writer-producers, and people who quit years ago and moved to the forest. Therefore, I knew we'd have varying perspectives of what happened to us, who was responsible, what changes were reasonable to demand. So the questions needed to be very well curated and the conversation facilitated nimbly. We all agreed that this was not a space to process trauma, but to pool information, to look for patterns and brainstorm solutions so we could pay it forward for future generations. So, building trust and making room for diverse perspectives were things I could anticipate and prepare for as a facilitator. But a third factor I didn't foresee at all. Can you guess what it is? What might be a barrier for this group of child performers to have this conversation? As people timidly came off mute, I observed that few of us ever learned we had a voice of our own and could assert our needs. We somehow could be the star of someone else's script, the face of a brand, the mouthpiece for a movement, but if we spoke about our private wants, our deeper emotional needs, our creative ideas, would we be heard? Would anyone care? For many of us, we'd received the message that there wasn't room for our true selves. Not with our teams, not on set, not in society, sometimes not even in our own home. So we arrived in spaces as chameleons, waiting for the environment and surrounding company to determine our costume and speech. Well, here, there was permission to be yourself. And I don't think we'd ever been this honest and unarmored around each other. One courageous person offered a simple but profound anecdote that shined a light on an elephant in the room that's somehow stayed in the shadows over the years. He said by his teens, it was a daily occurrence for strangers to approach him on the street, hug him, touch him, tell him deep secrets, take photos, make random requests like, "Talk to my aunt on the phone so she knows I really met you." He was long conditioned to accept their advances regardless of how he was feeling or what he was doing that day, because everyone was entitled access to him. He'd be considered mean if he turned anyone away. We all nodded very knowingly, and I joked to myself, that's why I have no boundaries. And then a light bulb went off. Maybe there's more under that quip. And I said, does anyone else struggle with boundaries, with knowing where they start and end? And I saw nods, sighs, snickers. The budding transparency brought warmth and camaraderie into this Zoom conversation. And for the first time in my life, I was getting to know my peers not by their credits and vocal ranges, but by their humanity, dignity, and well-being. I realized even amidst our differences, we shared certain quirks, shades of humor, relationship challenges, scars. I started looking for these connecting themes that spoke to this group of adults who were contending with being doormats and dancing monkeys, with lost and alienating childhoods, with surprising signs of neglect amidst so much attention and praise. Suddenly it became so visible. The elephant in the room was bodily autonomy. If you don't know, bodily autonomy is the right of an individual to have power and agency over decisions related to their own body. You might have heard it in conversations about reproductive rights, medical ethics, also abolishing slavery. It has particular nuance with regards to children, given guardians and adults hold significant authority and power over kids and are responsible for making most decisions until the child develops their own sense of self and capacity to make choices and assert needs. So you may already have some expertise or maybe some baggage with the topic of bodily autonomy. Just invite you to check in and ask, what am I carrying into this conversation from my own life, my own politics? Please set it at the door for now and just come in and listen.